Okay. Hi, Tasha Young. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, Nicole. Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you. I see you all in red, and I have my peace sweater on. I love it.
Right.
Um, so I've known you for a bit, and I've watched your work in the county, and I am so grateful for all that you do. And I know about a year ago, you started the Good Policy Institute. So can you tell us a little bit about why and how that started. And then we're going to discuss today the way our audience could potentially help you fundraise for the programs that you're working on through Good Policy. So, first, tell us the origin.
Thank you so much. The origin is I realized that policy is lived, and I realized that in 2020 during the pandemic when we were able to really respond to an emergency through changing laws and allocating money at the snap of a finger, literally. When we didn't know what we could do, we didn't know we could do it. I was part of the body that created legislation for outdoor dining during the pandemic, open streets, so many things. And policy touches every single aspect of our lives, every single aspect of our lives, from how much we pay in taxes to how our streets are maintained to how much our medicine costs. I mean, just everything, anything you could imagine is policy related. And after that experience during the pandemic in New York City, I ran for office to become the executive for the town of Greenberg, and we call that a supervisor. And I wasn't successful in achieving the seat, but I learned so much about Greenberg politics and Westchester politics and the Democratic Party politics. And I said, I don't have to win to affect change because I know policy. I teach policy at NYU and I have a social work background. So any kind of public service, when policy doesn't work because you're doing the thing that you're supposed to do for the government or the not-for-profit, but you're also working with people directly. You're in community. So as a social worker, I saw firsthand a lot of policies that maybe were very well intentioned but didn't work, primarily because they weren't inclusive of everyone's experience. So I said, okay, I'm not an elected official. I know how to write legislation. I know how to lobby. And I know that we need equity in policy. And that's how I started the Institute. And thank goodness I have a few board members that are just as ambitious as I am. And we started this organization.
I love that. Yep, I love that. Yeah, I mean, I think most of us take for granted, what policy does. And I think, people are behind policy too, right? So you can pass legislation, you can change things on the books, but those attitudes also have to be simultaneously kind of sculpted. So I know you also, with the social work background, you love to circle up, you love to talk, you love to engage people one on one or in groups. So I appreciate that you sort of have, like, you're a policy wonk, but you're also a people changing person as well. So I think those two kind of have to go hand in hand. Um, so moving into what support you need for the good policy, what are the things you're doing through the Institute?
I love that word sculpted. I really love that because that's your creative side. And policy, you do have to sculpt a lobby or a citizen action or an advocacy measure. You do have to sculpt it because we all approach one another with different lived experiences. So it might make sense to me that student loans need to be forgiven, but when you work in policy, you realize that there are thoughts out there around that. And some of the thoughts are, well, I paid for mine, you should pay for yours. So
Mhm.
that's a conversation that you need to have. But before you even have the conversation, you need to understand that that thought is out there. So the sculpting part of it, what we do at the Good Policy Institute is we have discussions around policy initiatives. We call it the Honest series. So when you're talking about equity and inclusion, you got to be honest that people have feelings and emotions about identities. So in the Honest series, we talk about some of these feelings and emotions. We explain the data, which is very important. In a policy institute, you have to have the data. So yes, we can have the social um, interest, and we can know intuitively that this is the right thing to do, but sometimes people need data. So as we're sculpting this action, this change, this budget allocation, we need to talk about it. One of the topics we're endeavoring is cash reparations for Black people in this country. That is not limited to descendants of American slavery. That
Mm,
goes through Jim Crow, that goes through the Black codes, that goes through redlining, and we are having to discover the history right where we live. So we also started a research fellowship for 14 to 21-year-olds called Where I'm From. And the impetus was really to understand that we did have slavery here in New York. It was part of the economic advancement in New York, in Westchester County, in the town of Greenburgh, where I live. So the
unbelievable.
fellows, yeah. And I know on on the Sound Shore there's the Jay Heritage Center. So we worked with Historic Hudson Valley and this wonderful organization called Commemorate Irvington. What
Mm,
Commemorate did was find evidence of African burial ground in Irvington. And they preserved that spot. They commissioned a sculptor to create art to commemorate the presence of the Africans who were enslaved there. And they made a booklet about slavery in Irvington. It's just a phenomenal feat that they did. So we partnered with them and we were able to bring the fellows on tours. We were able to give four of them scholarships to go to college. Um,
ah,
and it's just so rewarding. There's no way we can get to reparations unless we have discussions about, how we came to be in this country. And also unless we understand that it happened right here. It happened to the fabric of our economy right here in New York. So that's another program that we do. And yeah, we're just sculpting. We're sculpting.
I know the theme. There's a theme. So what is there a third piece to okay, tell us.
The third piece is very important. It's the Biden administration is really trying very hard to relieve people's pocketbooks. And one of the ways they're doing that is for borrowers of student loan debt. We know that the higher education process has ballooned in tuition fees. And as we kind of look at the dichotomy of education being the great equalizer, if you can get it, and then people go and they take these loans so they can get it. And then with the interest that compounds, by the way, you just kind of die paying your student loans unless you're making a significant amount of money. And even some of our borrowers that we work with are making $300,000, but the taxes take so much of that if they have a family. So it's really a problem.
Mm,
The student loan debt crisis is a crisis. So
mhm.
we are looking to help people in community really manage the studentaid.gov site, to fill out their applications for public service loan forgiveness, to understand how they can get the lowest payment. So these three programs we run, and they really do need to be supported. We're in the community, we're working one-on-one with people. That's where I get to take the social work case management side of me, and we have other coaches that are helping people get forgiven. I've been forgiven $112,000, including my Parent Plus loan. And it's helped me.
Amazing.
Yes, it's helped me tremendously. This puts me in a whole different category for home ownership, the American dream, and the like. So those are our three programs. If anyone watching wants to know where their money would go, I would put it directly to the fellows immediately. We had 7 graduate, and they are now good policy fellows, and they're willing to come back. And another category where we study is mental health.
Mm,
The young people want to know how their minds work and how their emotions work. So some of our scholars studied mental health in the Latinx community.
mm,
And then environmental justice. So sowing a seed into a young person in community, learning about environmental justice local where they live in Yonkers or New Rochelle or Terrytown where I live, these disadvantaged communities, we don't know how much a student will do knowing that some environmental factors are contributing to asthma. That might encourage them to go into the sciences, to become a doctor, to become a researcher, to know the history of slavery. That might encourage them to be an anthropologist or a sociologist or historian, an educator, to know the history of, to know mental health and how it relates to you being in the Latinx community. Que Pasa Latinx is an organization we work with Maria Alfaro. She's
mm.
amazing, amazing. So just imagine sowing a seed into a young person who understands how to research in their own community, can come back and do that, and then take that into their further studies or their further career opportunities. That is where you would be sowing your seed. Or you can help us with the Honest series. Think of it as an interactive TED Talk. What if we had the opportunity to talk to the people after we hear their testimony and really try to figure out how to move forward from there? That's what the Honest series does. And then, of course, helping people get their student loans as low as possible so they could better participate in the American dream. Any of those areas, any of those programs would really help us. And of course, we are mostly remote. We are a new not for profit. We have a fiscal sponsor, so any donation you can write off. And there's administrative fees also, but nobody wants to hear about that. So I'll just talk about the program fees.
I mean, you have a lot going on. It sounds it what I love about it is it sounds really hopeful. You know, there's and especially with our young people, I mean, look, environment, I mean, look at the flooding, right, that we're dealing with
Oh,
in our county, and, you know, it's fascinating to me when people talk about it and they don't discuss the environment in the same breath, you know, or
right.
wanting to really, like, green their neighborhood and be a model, right? So, I think there's so many hopeful things that these, young people can connect to, and I just love, again, like, your social work and your policy work coming together. So, you know, for folks out there, please, you will see a link and more information about Tasha and Good Policy in this blast. So please donate. And I thank you so much for being here today and for sharing with us. Do you want to leave us with anything or?
Nicole, you know I love you. Thank you and Cure for the work that you do. Happy Black History Month. We're making
Yeah.
history every day together, as we always have. It's always been multiracial, multicultural, multi-ethnic. We do big things together. So I just want to say happy Valentine's Day, happy Black History Month, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you too, Tasha. There is no American history without Black history, that's for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.